Welcome to MacStories Unwind, a weekly review of everything MacStories and more. Today's show is brought to you by Fitness View. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is a special guest, Mr. Alex Guillot. Hey, Alex.
Hey, John. How's it going?
Good. We let you out of your cage. You've been given a reprieve from working on secret projects.
I've been very busy.
Yes, for the next 20 or 30 minutes, we're going to talk about other things. And because Federico's not here, I think he's sunning himself somewhere on the coast of Italy. We are going to break with the usual format, and I'm going to share with you a tech confession, Alex.
Ooh.
Yes, I bought AirTags. I think I bought AirTags out of peer pressure, honestly, because I looked at them and I was like, well, you know, still kind of in the middle of the pandemic when they first came out, and I didn't really have any plans to go anywhere at the time, and I've been mostly working from home. But I bought a 4-pack and a couple of key rings from Belkin. And they sat on a shelf, and I didn't even open the box until just this week when Jennifer went off on a trip, and so she needed some for her luggage. And so far, so good. I don't think even if she loses her luggage, she's bound to use them. But at least they're on a bag somewhere, and I showed her how to use it, so it's on her now.
Yeah,
so.
They're attached to something finally.
They are. They're on her luggage. So I don't know if she used them. I haven't heard yet, but hopefully we don't have to use them. I mean, that's the weird thing about AirTags is, you know, you don't want to lose your luggage, but you might sometimes just want to figure out which baggage carousel it's on. So I figured it could be handy that way.
You didn't get one of those things that lets you attach it to your Siri remote?
I did not.
Fat bump on the bottom of it?
No, I don't need that. I mean, I know people, you know, you would think it's like the biggest tragedy, people losing their remotes all the time. I don't lose my remote that much.
Yeah.
It sits on a table and I pick it up when I need it. So
yeah, I gotta confess, me too. I've never lost my remote. Doesn't seem that hard.
I guess I'm super organized that way. It just sits there and it's always around.
Yeah.
All right, let's dive into this week's stories. And it was, you know, we've only got a few this week, and that's because I wrote a story for our Summer OS preview series all about QuickNote. And that was a pretty in-depth look at the way the feature works on both the iPad and on the Mac. And I got to tell you, I really like this feature. This is a feature that I think I'll use a lot. The main reason I won't use it all the time is that I really prefer the plain text lifestyle and the fact that with now Obsidian, which I've been using a lot like Federico, that I can not only get things into it, but I can get things out of it in a useful way, in a way that Notes doesn't quite cut it for me. But I do like it. I mean, the idea of using this when I'm maybe researching maybe a new TV or some other thing I might be thinking about buying or a trip I might be taking, I like it. I like it for those type of things. And I also like that it's on the iPad and the Mac, but I'm a little disappointed that it's not on the iPhone too. The iPhone feels like to me the kind of place where you really would want to take a quick note because, you know, maybe you don't want to read a lengthy product review on your phone and you just want to shoot it off to QuickNote and then open it up later on your Mac or your iPad and read a little more in depth. But you know, despite those limitations, I think the implementation is really good, especially on Safari where you can highlight text and it, you know, the highlighting persists between visits to that page. And then a link and a little bit of, you know, an excerpt of the text that you've highlighted is dropped right into the quick note. So that all of that works really well. And I really would like to see that, especially the highlighting feature, added to any document-based app where you could highlight a PDF and preview, or maybe even a cell in Numbers and be able to go back and have these notes that are linked to different parts of these apps that are document-based. It could be a real powerful thing, I think.
Yeah, I totally agree. The highlighting really seems like one of the coolest parts of that feature and one of the most useful over time. But I agree with you as well that having it on the phone would be so nice. It really feels like it would be just great to be able to swipe up from the bottom corner on your iPhone and write a quick note like that. I feel like they should add that.
Yeah, they definitely should. And I mean, I think that's a good point too. It's like, you know, this is not all just like tied to Safari or whatever. You can just swipe up from the corner on the iPad or, you know, go to a hot corner or something, or use a keyboard shortcut on the Mac and take a note. And on the iPad, you can even use the handwriting if you've got an Apple Pencil. So definitely a cool feature that I think a lot of people will use this fall. It's a little bit different between the way it works on the iPad and the way it works on the Mac. So worth checking out the article and seeing all the screenshots and all the little nuances about how it differs from platform to platform. Alex, you have some keyboards to tell me about, I think.
Yes, I do. So Apple this week also released new Mac keyboards and pointing devices, which we covered on MacStories. And this keyboard finally has the Touch ID button in the top right corner. So these are the same keyboard designs that we've seen on the new M1 iMacs, but this one doesn't have the cool colors, unfortunately. So you do have to go for the silver version only, but you can finally buy that separately. And if you have an M1 laptop or an M1 Mac Mini, you can get Touch ID attached via your external keyboard now, which is a great feature that I think a lot of people were hoping would happen. And Apple's finally released that, which is good to see. Unfortunately, if you have an Intel Mac, the Touch ID will not work with that, I believe.
That's correct. They do have a non-Touch ID version of this that otherwise has the new design, and so you can get that if you want that. And then there's the trackpad and the mouse. And the mouse is kind of funny. I mean, it's listed as new, and I guess it is because you get the woven lightning cable in the box. And someone has told me, I think it was Stephen Hackett, that there's a very slight difference in the profile of the mouse. But looking at it myself, I can't tell any difference physically about the mouse itself. But
still have to stab its underbelly to charge it, though.
You do. I've been testing the M1 iMac, and honestly, that's the worst part of the whole thing is that mouse. And I've actually been using it full time since June. And but by full time, I mean I mostly use the trackpad because the mouse just makes my hand hurt.
Yeah,
it's not a good mouse at all. All right, Alex, let me tell you about the third story that I covered this week, which are some new child safety features that are coming to all the OSs this fall. And there are a couple of different things going on here, and there's a lot of complex detail in terms of the technology that underlies all this. And it's really worth visiting this site that Apple put up, their child safety site that is linked in this article if you want to find out the details, because I think the details are really important. There are a couple of things. One is with iMessages. There is some on-device machine learning going on where a parent can opt in for a child that's in a family sharing group to use this feature. And if they do opt in, what happens is if a child either receives or is attempting to send an image that the machine learning determines is nudity or something like that, something that is on their inappropriate list, then the parent will be notified. That's one of the things that's there. The other is related to iCloud Photo Library. Now, this, I've seen a lot of misinformation about this online. What is happening here is Apple stores photos in iCloud Photo Library on its servers. And if you use that feature, when you send an image to iCloud Photo Library, what this will do is it will compare the fingerprint of your image against a fingerprint of known child pornography in a database. And if you pass a certain threshold, which is not disclosed in terms of numbers of times this happens, then there will be a report created and sent to the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. So that's what's happening there. It's happening on your device. And it's only if you use the iCloud Photo Library feature. And this is not out yet. It's coming in the fall, and it's US only at the beginning. So those are kind of the facts. I know that there's a lot of privacy advocates that are concerned about the civil liberties aspects of this, particularly if this goes beyond the obviously laudable goal of reducing child abuse and child pornography online, but is used maybe for political reasons by some countries. It does have that aspect to it that is concerning. But for now, this is where things stand, and it's coming in the fall. So check out the article, and as I said, go to the links and find out more details because there's a lot of detail there about how this works cryptographically and that sort of thing. All right, Alex, I want to tell you a little bit about MacStories Weekly this week, which I bet you haven't had a chance to read yet.
Oh, no. I've been very busy on certain secret projects.
All right. Well, I'll give you a pass, but you have to dig into Federico's part 3 of his Obsidian setup series because he has this note, which he calls the dashboard, and it's the Federico Viticci outboard brain, I guess. It's where he puts all the little things that he can then repeat back and bother us about, because he never forgets now. He will say, Alex, did you do this thing? John, did you remember this? And we'll both say, no, we have no idea, because we don't write these things down, but he does.
It's true. He forgets nothing these days.
He forgets nothing. He's got a very comprehensive list because he's got a lot going on right now. And in any event, this is a great note, and he uses a plugin called Quick Add that is a third-party plugin for Obsidian. He has a shortcut and some other things that he's doing to manage this note. And I think it's a really interesting approach to it. It's definitely worth checking out. And there's even a plugin that's used here by my son, Finn. So Finn actually contributed a version of a Todoist plugin. So Federico is tracking his tasks within the note as well.
Yeah, I'm really excited to check out all of Federico's Obsidian work. I haven't, of course, had time to at the moment, but I've been on Obsidian as well. I kind of started checking that out around the same time that you guys did, and I really like it. And I'm super excited to dig into all the, amazing things Federico's been doing over there and start to build that out once I have a little more free time.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, there's a lot of, you can really tailor it to the way you work, which is what I like about it a lot. And I think Federico does too. So there's that. And I wrote about things you shouldn't automate. And, my premise really was, just because you can automate something doesn't mean you should. And there are certain things you really shouldn't. And I gave a couple examples of things that would be trivially easy for me to automate that I don't, because there are reasons. And I've thought about them and I revisit it every now and then. And it's just one of those cautionary tales of just because something is possible doesn't mean you should do it. And then we also had an interview with Shahid Ahmad about the Playdate, because he's got one of the developer units, which I'm pretty jealous of.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and he's been playing around with it. He's working on something. He wouldn't quite give up the details on what he's working on, but he's got some really good insights. I mean, he's worked in the gaming industry for a long time and has some interesting insights about where the device fits kind of in the whole universe of the game industry. Alex, we also had another episode of App Stories, as we always do on Monday morning, and this was episode 234. You weren't going to see another, series of numbers like that for a while, but 234 is out, and this is a continuation of some of our early beta impressions for all the OSs that are being updated this fall by Apple. And the reason we revisited these is because things have changed pretty significantly over the course of the betas already. And with beta 4 out and public, we wanted to talk about Safari, of course, but also about some other things. We talk about Quick Note, we talk about focus modes, we talk about a bunch of different things in there. And I covered Books, because Books is one of those apps on the Mac that I've been complaining about for a couple of years. And because it's going to be changed for the better, I thought I ought to end on a positive note and talk a little bit about why that app is changing for the better. All right, Alex, our sponsor this week is Fitness View. Fitness View is a brand new health and fitness dashboard for tracking health data and getting valuable insights using the iPhone and Apple Watch. The Apple Watch has become this incredibly robust health and fitness device that, coupled with an iPhone, lets you track more data than ever before about your workouts and overall health. What Fitness View does, though, is it takes that overwhelming mountain of data that is collected by your watch and makes sense of it with a beautifully designed app that helps you spot trends and measure your progress. By picking goals that matter the most to you from the app's comprehensive list, you can create a dashboard designed just for you. Fitness View also tracks workouts, providing the most important stats at a glance with the ability to tap through to get more details. Those stats power the app's home screen widgets too, allowing you to keep track of the most essential data without even opening it. Fitness View's data is available on the Apple Watch too, along with multiple watch complications that bring its power right to the face of your watch. I should mention too that there's a workout section that is a similar experience to stats, in that it gives you a great overview chronologically of all your workouts. And then if you want to see more about a particular one, just tap right through or go to the monthly view and get a high-level view of the stats for those workouts. Download Fitness View today at fitnessview.app to stay on top of your health and fitness goals all year long. Again, that's fitnessview.app to grab this fantastic all-in-one health and fitness dashboard. Our thanks to Fitness View for their support of Unwind and MacStories. Okay, we have been, Alex, recently going back through and talking about arcade again, because arcade has been on a bit of a tear with a bunch of new and classic games as well as updates to existing ones. So we thought we would mention a few of the ones that have come out. I know you have a couple that you want to mention. What's new on arcade?
Yeah, John, the new Monster Hunter Stories game by Capcom has dropped today. And I haven't actually played any of the Monster Hunter series, but a lot of my friends I know absolutely love Monster Hunter. It's a really highly rated RPG game, and this is kind of the next, or a new iteration of it that's coming to Apple Arcade. And so I'm pretty excited because I haven't had any gaming systems I think Monster Hunter was on the Switch, but I think it's mostly been on other systems. And I'm pretty excited for it to come to iOS, and I might take some time and give this one a try and see how it goes diving into the Monster Hunter world. And I'm pretty excited about that. I think Federico's a pretty big Monster Hunter fan as well. And then we also have Super Stickman Golf 3. So the next iteration of everyone's favorite golf game is here. There's no ads or in-app purchases, of course, because we're in Apple Arcade. And it looks like, I haven't played this one yet, but it's out today, and it looks like just another iteration of all the same great stuff that we get from Super Stickman Golf. You've got or multiplayer matches of up to 8 players, and you just go turn by turn playing with your friends, and that seems pretty fun. You can collect cards to unlock new power-ups and characters, and yeah, it just looks like more Stickman Golf fun. And anyone who's liked the past games, I'm sure, are gonna get a kick out of trying this one as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to giving that one a try. It's been a little while since I've played any of the iterations of that game, so I'm going to check it out. Another one that's coming soon, not out yet, is Layton's Mystery Journey by Level 5. And the Professor Layton series is a series that's been on Nintendo platforms for quite a long time and is very popular. So I haven't really seen a lot of details on this yet, but it's really interesting to me in particular because it is a console game. It's not like, a really complex first-person shooter or anything, but this is a series that has been very successful on Nintendo's systems, and now it's coming to Apple Arcade, which is not something we've seen a lot. But, obviously, Alex just talked about the Monster Hunter series, so it seems like that's something that is happening more and more. It is time for our weekend Unwind picks. And I know, Alex, that you've got a TV show for us, and I've got a podcast. So why don't you kick it off with the show you've got?
Sure. So I recently binged through the second season of Outer Banks, which is a show on Netflix. 2 seasons. The second one just dropped, I think, last week or the week before. And it's just a really fun kind of teen adventure drama. And it's about these 4 teens that live out on these islands called the Outer Banks. And the 4 teens that we follow are the kind of the poorer kids on the island, and they call themselves the Pogues. And then all the rich people on the island, they call the Kooks. And so it's there's a whole dynamic of how those 2 groups interact and the cross dynamics between them. And then through all of this is kind of this treasure hunt going on. So everyone's searching for this sunken ship from many years ago that supposedly was filled with gold. And so the rich people and these poor kids on the island are all involved in this hunt for this gold, and it's just really, really fun. It's not one of my favorite shows ever, but it's absolutely just a blast to watch. And I watched season 1 last year, and it was fun then. My sister turned me on to it. And then this year, season 2 dropped, and I binged through that really quick because it's just, I don't know, you can just kind of eat it up. It's good TV. And most of the actors are new. I think Charles Eston, people might know. He played Deacon in Nashville. But otherwise, it's mostly new people who I hadn't seen before, and they were all great. And yeah, just a fun show to binge on a weekend if you're into that on Netflix.
Oh, that sounds great. It's not a show that I was familiar with, so I'll have to give it a try myself. So the podcast that I am going to recommend is one that is created by Panic. the makers of Transmit and Nova. And, I'm sure that everybody here, after listening to me and Federico, knows that Panic is making the Playdate. We just covered that a little bit in the recap of the Club MacStories Weekly newsletter. And what Panic's had a podcast for a while, but this was the first episode that I'd listened to because it was a nice recap of the history of the Playdate and how it came to be. And it goes back all the way to 2016, and it's a lot of fun to listen to where the idea came from and the difficulty of getting it created. Making something physical is a very different experience for a company like Panic that's traditionally made software. And I enjoyed every bit of it because it was very, especially it's when you think about that period, 2016 through today. The last bit of that during the actual starting to put together the device itself was done during the pandemic, and that threw some monkey wrenches into the works and slowed things down a little bit. But everything's full speed ahead, and they sold. This was actually published shortly before they launched the pre-orders. They sold those 20,000 pre-orders in 17 minutes, so it's gone very well. And this is kind of a fun listen to both see where it came from and hear the nerves of people like Cable Sasser as he's about to launch the product and whether or not they'll be able to sell the 20,000 that they were planning on for the first batch. So it's by all accounts going very well. You can still order. They aren't cutting off pre-orders. So if you go to their website, it's play.date. You can actually order one, and it'll come in 2022 sometime. I don't think there are hard dates that have been given yet, but you're able to do that, and you can always cancel if you decide you don't want it. So, but listen to the podcast. It's kind of fun to hear how this idea came about and how a company that was used to making software figured out how to make hardware too. All right, Alex, that's it for this episode. I'm going to let you tell everybody where to find you online.
Sure, John. So you can find me on Instagram at AJGUYOT. That's AJ Gio. Or on Twitter at _AlexGuillot, AlexGuYot.
All right. Well, thanks for filling in for Federico. I know you've been awfully busy. We all have, and it's fun to have someone to talk to instead of just doing this thing solo. So you can find me too online. I'm at John Voorhees on Twitter and Instagram. That's JOHNVOORHWS. Talk to you later, Alex.
See you, John.